Welcome to LEML building blocks. This video explains the types of building blocks used in the learning environment modeling language. This video focuses on the building blocks elements of the LEML framework. Building blocks in LEML can be thought of as the raw materials that make up courses or training programs. The learning environment modeling language is based on 5 building blocks. These building blocks are designed to represent key elements of learning environments. These building blocks are information, dialogue, feedback, practice, and evidence. These 5 building blocks can be combined together to model diverse learning environments using a common language. This diagram model is an example of how the LEML building blocks can be combined to create a design for a learning environment. So let's look at the anatomy of an LEML building block. First, the main symbol indicates the type of building block. The top line of text of the building block is a brief description of that element in the learning environment. So for example, this may be listed as an overview or a Chapter 1 reading or a final exam. The bottom text line is how the element is represented in the learning environment. This is, for instance, this may describe a specific tool in a learning management system like a discussion forum, or how the element is presented in a classroom environment such as a live presentation. These 3 elements communicate a tremendous amount of detail about that element within the learning environment. The building blocks that make up LEML are designed to represent as much of the learning environment as possible with the fewest number of elements. The building block type is designed to communicate a basic taxonomy of the design of learning environments, while the descriptions input in for each building block provides a more concrete direction for what is represented in the learning environment. So let's look at each of the building blocks individually. First, the information building block represents elements in the learning environment that presents information. This often includes things like web pages, articles, journals, videos, or animations. The goal of an information building block is to transfer information to the learner. In most cases, this is presented in a passive form, meaning the learner consumes the content with little interaction needed beyond navigating the media. Second, the dialogue building block describes communication or collaboration elements within the learning environment. For example, this may include a class discussion, peer debate, or a group presentation or a group discussion. The interaction is often focused on communicating ideas or supporting collaborations. However, it can also be more individual, a dialogue between the individuals, such as reflection. Third, the feedback building block represents opportunities where feedback is built into a learning environment. As a common example, feedback is often provided by an instructor on an assignment or an essay. In contrast, the instructor may seek feedback from students about how the course is progressing and areas that they are confident in or feeling unsure of. The feedback building block represents results from another building block, most likely a dialogue, practice, or evidence building block. Fourth, the practice building block describes opportunities in the learning environment to apply and practice skills. This building block describes application-focused learning processes. Often this process involves creating, analyzing, or solving problems and can be conducted individually or as a group. So for instance, a problem set in a math class would be an example of a practice building block, where the learner must practice applying a set of skills to achieve a goal. The goal driving a practice building block is often the application and practice using knowledge or skills. Some designers may think of practice building blocks also as serving a formative assessment role. The evidence of learning building block represents opportunities where evidence of learning is presented in the learning environment. So for example, a student works several weeks to develop a persuasive essay. Several opportunities for practice were offered and the instructor contributed 2 rounds of feedback. The student then submits the final version of the essay in an online assignment Dropbox. The essay is an example of evidence of learning. An evidence of learning building block that often will be connected with a feedback building block. Some designers may think of the evidence of learning building block as serving a summative assessment role. As a review, the learning environment modeling language is based on 5 building blocks. These building blocks are designed to represent characteristics of learning environments. Just remember, these building blocks are information, dialogue, feedback, practice, and evidence.